Hello, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I am joined tonight with a very good friend of mine, Alfred Lambremont Webre. We go way back. We've had a news evolution show together with Patty Greer and all sorts of collaborations and things over the years. So it's wonderful to have you. And I just want to thank you for being here before I share a little bit about your bio.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, and so you've been writing some very amazing books and you just keep putting it out there and it's amazing. So I really wanted to get you on to talk about your latest book. And now I've sort of lost the bio. Okay, yeah, but first, before we do that, let me share a little bit about Alfred. So first off, the name of his book is Emergence of the Omniverse 2020. Futurist Alfred Lambremont Webre's principal social contributions have been, number one, founding the science of exopolitics through his 2000 book Exopolitics. Number two, the 2014 discovery of the Omniverse as the third major cosmological body after the universe and the multiverse through which humanity understands the cosmos. And number three, the development of the positive future equation that describes soul development in our universe and omniverse. And so, yes, I'll put information in how to get that book. And I know you have a PowerPoint too, which I'm really excited to see. But yeah, kind of tell us about the evolution of this particular book and a little bit more about just, yeah, how that all kind of launched in the last couple of years with what's happening on the planet right now.
Yeah, I can actually do that through the PowerPoint. Should I do that?
Perfect. Yes, that would be great.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go to share screen and then bring us up here and then bring us into here and then start us up here on the theory that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is even in Catalan, because part of this PowerPoint is what I initially shared in Barcelona back in the days when we could travel. Remember those?
Oh my gosh, travel? What's that?
Yeah, it's strange. And so what I thought for today, because today is a very special day, people should really know that today is Juneteenth. And what that is a very special day of joy to people from the African community who have been enslaved and have that in their DNA. A very close friend of mine who is from she calls it the melanated community, was explaining to me how they feel it in their DNA over the generations. And so this is a day that the slave community in the United States finally got the word that they had been emancipated. June,
oh, wow, how interesting.
19th. And we're on the edge of the eclipse of the Ring of Fire. So yes, you know more about that, and the summer solstice, right?
Yes.
Yes, so could you in just a sentence or two tell us what we're going into the next couple of days?
Okay, so the sun is just entering the sign of Cancer, and we've got the new moon in Cancer, but it's conjunct the North Node in Gemini. That's what makes it an eclipse. So we're in a huge growth period as far as humanity is concerned when it comes to our throat chakra, the way we communicate. How can we find a way to have a frequency come out of our mouths that actually produces unity instead of division? And that's, kind of what we're seeing with false flags and trigger events, is that it wants to drop us down into the mind control that creates a lot of chaos and static. And so the growth period for humanity and what this eclipse represents is how can we move through that and learn these lessons and grow from it together with love, compassion, and patience. So that's my quick assessment right now. And the power lasts for many months. A solstice is about 3 months, an eclipse is about 6 months, and this is, you know, a 3-day window where both are actually happening.
Wow. And so I would like to dedicate this PowerPoint and this transmission to that power, and that all beings can be liberated and share in that power. And so this is about a positive future.
Oh, and I just want to say, with you being a sun sign Gemini, yeah, it's yes, your voice and the fact that you're launching a book around this time is huge. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and this is all about the positive timeline, and it's all paradoxical, but isn't it amazing that this is happening at this time, a positive timeline? It's amazing. It's just amazing. It's just rising over sort of all of the noise. And so this is Emergence of the Omniverse. And people can go to various websites to find out more things about it. You can go to positivefuture.info, and that will tell you, from the point of view of time science, why we're on a positive timeline. And even though you may have a lot of external phenomena like the 2020 pandemic or scamdemic or whatever word you want to look at, that nobody was expecting, right? These are just sort of external phenomena that certain forces are trying to use to sort of, because they're in survival, because they know that we're on the positive timeline and that their demise is certain. So they're trying to like survive because they're on the positive, we're on the positive timeline and they're about to die. So they're projecting their death onto us by trying to extinguish us, if that makes sense. It's amazing. Everything is in reverse. Everything is in reverse now. And 2020 really stands for Emergence of the Omniverse, which is the third great cosmological body after the universe and the multiverse, through which humanity comprehends the cosmos. And the omniverse is when we really bring into our full waking consciousness and understand, and overstand the fact that we are multidimensional, and this is a multidimensional reality. You can also go to exopolitics.com to go into more about a universe filled with extraterrestrial races. Newsinsideout.com follows a lot of the news. Universebooks.com, if you want to go into depth about a lot of books. And coming in 2021, Omniversity, we'll find out more about this and how it relates to a lot of the color revolution that's happening now, even in the United States. It's amazing. So a lot of what we're going to be covering actually comes out of and is synthesized from some of the books that you can find on at universebooks.com. Exopolitics.com founded the science of relation between intelligent civilizations in the multiverse. Exopolitics.com, and exopolitics was actually entered the English dictionary and it was officially made a word in 2005. And DARPA CIA secret time traveled the book Exopolitics back in time from 2005 when it was published, and they traveled it back to 1971, where a time travel colleague of ours, of Laura and mine, Andy Bashago, witnessed it in 1971. And in 1971, the DARPA secret time travel unit and CIA called me in. I was then general counsel in the Environmental Protection Administration of New York, and they called me in for a lecture. That's what I used to do. I used to lecture people on the environment in the city of New York. And I got a call, and I said, sure, I'll go lecture you. And it was a man in a suit. It wasn't like the normal environmentalist. And he took me to we traveled for a few hours, nondescript building, second floor, about 50 men in suits and ties. I knew they weren't environmentalists. I knew they were spooks. But I just went ahead and I lectured them on the environment. And what it was is that they had been briefed on my book. This was 1971, that my book, Exopolitics, that I would write and publish I would publish in the year 2000 and 2005. And they wanted to see what I looked like in the year 2000. I even speculated that, at that time in 1971, they had pre-identified all future presidents. Bush 1, Clinton, Bill Clinton, Bush 2, Barack Obama, Donald Trump. And I said, hey, maybe they pre-identified me as the future US president, because I looked at my gematria. Somebody gave me my gematria, so I thought of US president as though I'm a future US president, who knows? When you have life extension. So maybe they called me in because they had pre-identified me as a future US president. I mean, the thing is that you can't really, once you understand, and understand that this is a multi-dimensional reality, there's no reason to put limits on it. And these books began with Exopolitics, which went back and forth in time, and which the CIA had since 1971. And can you imagine what it was doing to the exopolitics movement? So by the time that I started lecturing on it in public in the year 2000, CIA had held all of these secret conferences or preparatory books with exopolitics figures in order to prepare them to be exopoliticians. So it's like in the United States, it's very difficult to know what's legitimate and what's part of the CIA. It's a very difficult society to live in, and that's why I enjoy living outside of the United States and look in. It's kind of looking into Mordor and being in the Shire.
Yes, hugely important points, yes.
Yeah, and Laura knows what I'm talking about, because she has been in so many different dimensions as well, and it's just, we are really dimension travelers, and these are sort of vehicles that we use. Now, some of the other books, the book on the Omniverse, that came out in 2014, and that was one of 3 books there were 2 other independent authors, all 3 of us. In 2014, we simultaneously published books on the Omniverse, on the 3rd major cosmological body through which humanity understands the cosmos, after the universe, which was discovered by the Sumerian astronomers around 3500 BC, and the multiverse, which was first coined by the American scientist William James in 1895. But all 3 of us published books in the year 2014 in different parts of the world. And then the book, My Journey Landing Heaven on Earth, Journey, documents the ET abductions. Abduction is not an abduction. Abduction is when you're taken to the stars, of President Jimmy Carter, myself, and chrononaut Andrew Basiago. This was in 69, 73, and 75. It was in a coordinated way. Jimmy Carter, myself, and Andy Basiago were all abducted by the same group of light-being extraterrestrials. And they abducted us in order to prepare Jimmy Carter for the presidency. They prepared me to be the director of the Carter White House Extraterrestrial Communication Study. And Andy Basiago was abducted in order to be the physical witness who could testify about this. You can go to exopolitics.com, or you can read it in the book, in this Emergence of the Omniverse book. And he witnessed, the ETs brought him in so that he could witness us on the craft. And this is how the ETs, because they were ETs who are, take a sort of a positive role of soul development and a positive role of human development. And both Carter and John Kennedy, Jimmy Carter is John Kennedy's half-brother, they're both human souls, and they're both positive. And that's why, and they're one of the few presidents who were not of the reptilian order. And I also had very deep interactions with Laura's great-grandfather. I was in school at Georgetown Preparatory School during the Eisenhower administration. And when I was a junior, we were taken, a group of 6 of us or so, were taken to meet with Eisenhower's Secretary of Labor. And we had a whole section there. He briefed us and asked questions. And afterward, he apparently told my school that I had all sorts of, that I was very good and asked excellent questions. And I was here at my home and sitting at my dining room table, and suddenly this being came down upon me that identified itself as Ike, and with a very deep communication, and said to me that I should, really, was really, that it was very important. My and Laura's communication and our work together and our communication with the public was very important. I've never really shared that with Laura, but I think that this weekend and this occasion is a good time to share it. So here I've had, interactions, and with John Kennedy, I remember I was sailing with my buddy, Tim Killen. We were sailing in his sailboat on Lake Worth, which is right between Palm Beach and West Palm Beach. And because my parents used to live down in West Palm Beach, and this was during the John Kennedy years, and I was down visiting them during the holidays, and all of a sudden we were making a turn, and this boat was coming straight toward us, and it turned out to be the Honey Fitz, which was the presidential yacht. And so we had to get out of the way really quick. And John Kennedy was on the back deck, and he sort of waved at us. He has a pair of red shorts. It was really funny, but it was very impactful, So I've had a lot of connections with presidents. And I don't know, what are your thoughts about all of this, Laura?
Oh, it's pretty wild. My gosh. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the presidential family, but then I met the Nixon family just growing up in my family, our family, because David married Julie. And so the Nixon piece came into play. And yeah, at a very young age, I was feeling a lot of importance to look into the exopolitical. That wasn't something that was easily found, though, on the surface at all, not even close, not even in more intimate family gatherings. And that's when that really started to concern me, right? So the layers upon layers behind the scenes are something that compartmentalism looks to maintain. So even a well-intentioned person, it's not that they're hiding secrets. They literally have no idea. But then and then there's other cases where it's not even about that, but you're dealing with somebody with alters, right? Where they are a persona when they need to be a certain persona, and then they're off on another operation doing something else. And so I learned a lot. But yeah. So keep going, Alfred. It's amazing what you're sharing.
So this is just my book, Exopolitics in Spanish, was translated. And this is the latest book, Emergence of the Omniverse, both in English and in Spanish also. And this is Omniversity, which has gone through various incarnations, first as Exo-University and now as Omniversity. And the theory behind this is that universities are really established to study universes. And universes are organic singularities of time, energy, space, and matter. And really don't, and it's really the omniverse which contains the spiritual dimensions of the afterlife, spiritual beings, source. And so that's why universities tend to gatekeep the multidimensional subjects, and why you need an omniversity to study and to treat all of the multidimensional subjects. And Laura has been a faculty member on Exo-University and is the faculty member on Omniversity as that goes forward. And I'd just like to share an event and sort of get your feedback on it, if that's okay, Laura. Would that be okay? Of current history.
Oh yes, go for it.
Yeah, because it relates to the U.S. and it relates to sort of the color revolution that's going on in the U.S. right now. And that is that toward the beginning of May 2020, I was on this online event. You know how now during the pandemic, there are all sorts of events happening online with Zoom, right? Zoom is like this great event, this great event platform. And so,
right, yeah.
And so I was invited to a thing called a meetaway. And during meetaways, it's like a mixer for authors and agents and publishers, right? And so at this meetaway, I met this agent. And so afterward, we had a conversation, and it turned out that he was an agent with the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, Minnesota, right? And up until that point, I didn't know anything about the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I hadn't thought about it. This was May 3rd, 2020. And he and I discussed and evolved this project called the Omniversity Reader, which is a project in which each faculty member of Omniversity contributes a chapter in their specialty in multidimensionals, and it's be published by the University of Minnesota Press, because he was allied with the University of Minnesota Press. And so I was in the process of packaging that, and I have a package with my introduction as editor, one of my chapters from Emergence of the Omniverse, and I asked Andy Bishago for a chapter from one of his books, which I have in there. And then I'm in the process of approaching all of the faculty members of Omniversity. I'm actually going to approach you, Laura, to contribute a chapter, right? And so this was
whatever works. I support you unconditionally, regardless.
Great. And so this was on May 3rd at the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, right? Okay, May 3rd. And then on May 24th was my birthday, right? And then on May 25th, Kabui, George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis.
Right. Wow. The timing's crazy. Wow. Right?
Isn't that amazing? And then all of a sudden, everything blew up, right? Like, and it seems like, and that was a double-edged sword, because part of it was because there's a lot of evidence that was a false flag, right? Because George Floyd and the officer that killed him apparently knew each other, and George Floyd was a 33rd degree Mason. They knew each other. There's a lot of doubtful elements around that, and that maybe it was like happens around what's called a social a color revolution. They're kind of false flags. They're like the Arab Spring. They're these revolutions that are set into motion by the CIA to cause a lot of social upheaval, but not much fundamental change. But here at the same time, there is a lot of fundamental change and awareness going on, you know? So it's like the Italians say, chiaroscuro, a lot of light amidst the darkness. You see what I'm saying? So
yes.
I just wonder if at all, because we're all surveyed so much, if at all, there was any surveillance of my Omniversity in Minneapolis, and then boom, they did something, but it's boomeranged against them, because here we are on Juneteenth, and there's a huge amount of upheaval in the United States, both positive and negative. And I think for the positive, as this PowerPoint's going to show. But what do you think? Do you think that there's any?
It has to be.
There?
Well, we decide in every moment in the way we interpret things, in the way we respond to things. And then there's the critical mass part of it. But yes, there's also that timing, and like, and if we were to do like almost a mathematical, geometrical design of what this particular point at this time in history on a multidimensional level means based on, you know, what's showing up, it would be, I can't even imagine, right? And that's what you're bringing words to, which is so hard to articulate. So feeling a little bit sabotaged before getting on this interview puts me in that co-creative place of, you know, look at all these things constantly trying to trip us up, you know?
Yeah.
and what do we do in the face of it? We get back up, and we need to reconcile the parts of ourselves that got triggered and find a better way, you know, to communicate in order to survive these times. And I don't want to say survive as in a survival chakra, but like thrive. You know, right now, you know, it is a storm, but the storm is pretty temporary. What do we do in the face of stress, though, and storms? Maybe the best of us doesn't come out, but what can we do to mitigate the damages and at least preserve human sovereignty in the most important things, right? So that's why I love our timing of coming together and listening to this PowerPoint, because that's a part of that synchronicity.
Exactly. And I just wanted to share with you all the synchronicity that's going on here around Omniversity, University of Minneapolis, who knew, right? So I'm just sharing these things as we go through it. Now, getting into
exactly, and that's exactly what I was, kind of like subtly referring to. So go ahead.
So what is the Omniverse? Well, the universe, the multiverse, the omniverse. These are the three principal cosmological bodies through which humanity comprehends the cosmos. The equation expressing the omniverse is omniverse equals multiverse plus spiritual dimensions. In other words, omniverse equals the totality of universes in the multiverse plus the spiritual dimensions. And the spiritual dimensions equals the intelligent community of souls plus the spiritual beings plus source, or there are a lot of cultural names for source, God, etc. Now, the universe. In ordinary conventional history, it was the Sumerian astronomers and cosmologists that codified the concept of our universe in science as a discrete, organic, holographic creation of time, energy, space, and matter, including multiple timelines and an ecology of dimensions. Now, one interdimensional source says that the name of our universe, because it's one among many, is Uversa. You know, if you ask, well, what's the name of our galaxy? It's the Milky Way, but people don't normally ask, what's the name of our universe? That's Uversa. Well, that's just one source that says that. There may be other sources that says that that's the name of our universe. The multiverse, the next conceptual advance was that of the multiverse, a term coined in 1895 by the American psychologist and philosopher William James to mean the totality of all universes, encompassing all time, energy, space, and matter. And recently, two Stanford scientists developed an estimate of the number of physical universes of time, space, energy, and matter in the multiverse. And if one actually writes out the number of the estimated number of universes in the multiverse, which is 10 to the 7th to the 7th, that number itself, which doesn't have a name, we don't have a name for it, the number is so large, would be more than 260 million miles long. That's how long the number is, just to write that number out. And that's the number of universes there are in the multiverse. And we're just in one universe. That's what cosmology is about, and that's what creation is about. And we're in one solar system, in one galaxy, in one universe. Just to give a feeling of the scale of things that we're dealing with. And again, going back, when was the Omniverse discovered? Many researchers are working on uncovering the Omniverse, sometimes using other terminologies. Early Omniverse researchers include Omniscience. His name is Philip Walker, but he calls himself Omniscience also, working around 2010. Ethan Zygmunt-Wise, 2011. And the year 2014 saw an explosion of formal research on the Omniverse with scientist David Bertolacci's theory of the Omniverse, author Wes Penray's research on the Ka, which is a functional term that Wes Penray uses for the Omniverse, and my book, The Dimensional Ecology of the Omniverse, so that different people often simultaneously make related scientific discoveries in different parts of the Earth. And the discovery of the Omniverse is an example of this, where three of us simultaneously published books in 2014
yes.
on the Omniverse. And we didn't know each other, but we just, boom, we just did it. Just kind of far out, I think.
It is, and I've run into similar in ways I won't even put into words, but it's like, but you out of all people would know just how that happens. Yes.
Yeah, it's like the source wants to make sure that there's replicability, you know.
Yeah.
The thing. Okay, so from a science point of view, what is the Omniverse hypothesis? A reasonable observer can conclude that prima facie empirical evidence supports the dimensional ecology of the Omniverse hypothesis. This hypothesis holds that we Earthlings live in a dimensional ecology of intelligent life that encompasses intelligent civilizations based in parallel dimensions and universes in the multiverse, as well as souls, spiritual beings, and source, God, in the spiritual dimensions. Together, the exopolitical dimensions and the spiritual dimensions form the Omniverse. The totality of the spiritual dimensions, souls, spiritual beings, and God, function as the source of the universes of the multiverse. In other words, together, the souls, the spiritual beings, and source itself, all of us together in the spiritual dimensions actually function as source. It isn't just God that creates and maintains the universes. We all do it together. That's what souls do. Souls, only part of our function as souls is to incarnate, as we're doing now in these human avatars, say on a planet like Earth. But most of our time, is spent, or a large part of our function is spent in creating and maintaining the universes. And the universes themselves are machines for soul development. That's where souls get to incarnate and develop themselves. So it's this amazing creation for the development of souls, because each soul is a holographic fragment of source. And the principles of holography are that the totality of the hologram is in each fragment of the hologram. So each of our souls contains the totality of God. So in a way, it's this, we are replicating source, you know.
Brilliantly put. Yes.
Yeah, it's just, and that's when you say, Namaste, I salute the God within you. That's a scientific fact. Each of our souls is holographically a total hologram is the totality of source. The totality of the spiritual dimensions, soul, spiritual beings, and God function as the source of the universes of the multiverse. We can map the omniverse and prove its existence by the law of evidence because we now have replicable scientific empirical evidence for the spiritual dimension that is gathered by the same rules of the scientific method as the empirical evidence for time, space, energy, and matter. And what's a source of pride for me, an additional source of pride, is that this whole book on the omniverse, it grew out of a request that the University of Oxford, England, made to me. They approached me in 2009 after the European Exopolitics Summit, and they asked me to write a book on, quote, extraterrestrial civilizations and the law. And I found that when I started that, I had to go so deep into the ontology, or, you know, there was no real classification of extraterrestrial civilizations, that out of that grew the work on the omniverse. So I had to do that initially for, in effect, Oxford, because Oxford University Press is part of Oxford. And so I had to do that for the academic canon. And by that way, was able to sort of bring the omniverse inside of the canon of science, which I thought was a good accomplishment. You know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
You're asking all the questions I would want to be asking. I mean, this is what I love about your mind. And that's why I'm glad you brought a PowerPoint, because this people got to just have it all broken down without it being diverted into, you know, a question I'm about to maybe ask that could do that. So please keep on going with your flow.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I sincerely would like the omniverse to become part of human understanding, understanding, overstanding within our lifetimes, that we don't have to wait 5,000 years, 2,000 years for this to happen, that it can happen, you know.
Right. So when you see everything too, and you've been in this field for such a long time, and how all this stuff is unfolding. I know you already kind of addressed it, but with that in mind, what is it going to take? I mean, putting a book out is a huge start to create that ripple, but
yeah, this is what Ascension is about. This, you know, people say Ascension, in other words, you ascend into the omniverse.
Right. And where does that put the physical vessel? In an upgraded place, right? Or
yeah. You ascend into the omniverse.
So that the creative imagination can begin to like bring it into the physical, for the physical to upgrade. I mean, that's what I'm getting, is what you're sharing and what you've been sharing.
Yeah, exactly. The omniverse is part of the infrastructure of Ascension, of 5D, of, you know, without putting too many words on it.
The rest of ourselves that we're reclaiming. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So now,
isn't it like what our unconsciousness is waking up to? This is what unconsciousness is when we turn the light onto it. Would you agree? Or
yeah. This is it. This is now coming and into consciousness. Nature of source. There now exists replicable, empirical prima facie evidence that confirms some essential aspects of what major spiritual and religious traditions have taught about the nature of Source, or God. This evidence informs us that Source, God of the Omniverse, consists of the totality of the spiritual dimension. God has empirically been found to comprise the intelligent civilization of souls, the intelligent civilization of spiritual beings, and Source itself. This collective entity of the spiritual dimension has been empirically found to be responsible for the ongoing creation of the physical side of the omniverse, known as the exopolitical dimensions. In other words, the physical side of it is all of the universes of the multiverse, which the souls and the spiritual beings in Source are constantly creating and maintaining. Now, what's the mission of the omniverse? A core mission of the dimensional ecology of the omniverse appears to be the creation and development of souls and spiritual beings in these spiritual dimensions. And the intelligent civilization of souls and spiritual beings, along with Source or God, collectively create and maintain the totality of the universes of time, space, matter, and energy in the exopolitical dimensions. That's what souls do. Boom. And continuing with the mission of the omniverse, the purposes of the dimensional ecology of the omniverse include the facilitation of multidimensional development and moral growth of souls in all dimensions of the omniverse through a variety of activities. Souls based in the spiritual dimensions incarnate as intelligent entities in the exopolitical dimensions, and by acquiring the moral experience of life, for example, as an earthling human, which we're doing right now, can advance their individual soul development. So we souls incarnate as humans in our avatars, and we have moral experiences and we develop our souls. The soul is a holographic fragment of Source, and thereby is bringing the totality of Source down into this experience. And by advancing its development, the development of its own soul, advances the development of the collective spiritual dimension itself. So this is constantly growing.
Right, and when you see these, like the social engineering agendas absolutely wants to divert, pollute, modify, entrain, sort of, and create the frequency modulations to disrupt this natural organic expression, right?
Yeah, and that's why I think that when we were doing the Omniversity Reader at the University of Minnesota, and we're going to bring it into this form, that's when it attempted to disrupt. You see what I'm saying? By doing a false flag. But there was so much light behind Omniversity that it's turned it into a nationwide and then a worldwide happening. You follow me?
Absolutely. And that's why people like you and me always stay friends and we never fall into this craziness.
Yeah. And I think that that's what happened from May 3rd to May 25th. And what's happening now, it's just because the darkness didn't even know what it was messing with.
Totally. It was relying on negative egos, and and that's what it's trying to engineer through the indoctrination programs, starting from childhood. We all face that through television and school systems, and that's what you've done. You've turned the educational system around and the judicial systems around. You have transformed these things, and you hold that freaking override frequency that is shifting the paradigm in the work that you do, Alfred.
All right. Yeah. Now, these are
Doesn't
just
mean
some.
it's always going to be perfect or it's not about that. It's your heart. And I mean, and you're a genius. Yes. Okay. Keep
Amazing.
going.
And this is just going like exopolitics. This is really, this is where kind of the beauty and the design of it comes out. Exopolitics, the science of relations among intelligent civilizations, and parapsychology, the science of psi-consciousness, telepathy, reincarnation, the soul, the interlife, and source God are among the proper scientific disciplines for exploring and mapping the dimensional ecology of the omniverse. So these are the sciences that are taught at Omniversity and that come into play in these dimensions. Dimensionality, the ability of intelligence to organize itself via dimensions, discrete bands of conscious energy, appear to be a key criterion by which the omniverse is designed, both in the spiritual dimensions and the exopolitical dimensions, the holographic universes of time, space, energy, and matter in the multiverse. In other words, the omniverse is designed in dimensionality. We're dealing with the dimensional ecology of the omniverse. And teleportation and telepathy are two common modalities by which intelligent civilizations navigate the dimensional ecology of the omniverse in both the universes of the multiverse and in the spiritual dimensions. Communications among human contactees and representatives of hyperdimensional civilizations can be telepathic. In other words, telepathy is a key communication modality in the omniverse, because your telepathy is what you communicate with from here to the afterlife, right?
See, so I'm almost getting, though, that because of that, the Trump administration got the upload, download, or whatever you call it, of having some sort of chakra get cleared. It's not even about bloodline. It's like something happened. It doesn't seem to be your typical political party, and it's not about encouraging people to vote for him, because I know you're a journalist and you've been very blunt and bold in your statements about certain individuals, including him. But have you felt any encouragement whatsoever about this administration?
Well, I don't. I am totally open, and my personal.
That's what makes you a real journalist.
Yeah. Let me say this: my personal interactions with Mr. Trump have been extraordinary. Like, I had a personal interaction with him right after he declared for president on Twitter, and it was far out. My personal interactions with him have always been colored by this fact that I have studied him in the context of knowing from direct witnesses on Project Pegasus that he was pre-identified in 1971 as a future US president, and informed as such, and briefed as such, and groomed as such.
So this is, and help us to understand the difference between that and like College of the Siskiyous, like the Mars training program.
Yeah, i.e., he was not groomed in the same way as Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama, who was groomed as an inside apparatchik. He was not groomed in the same way as George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr., who were the skull and bones, who were, still groomed, but they came up through Skull and Bones, which is the Bavarian second chapter of the Bavarian Illuminati found that in 1776, in order to penetrate the American Revolution and make the United States a Luciferian entity, that was the purpose of Skull and Bones, or the second chapter of the Bavarian Illuminati, founded at Yale in 1776. So he was a very different type of entity, and is a very different type of entity from Bill Clinton. But I still had a cognizance of him as having been briefed by DARPA CIA in 1971 as a future US president. And so since I also in 1971 met with DARPA CIA time travel, right? My question is, well, why, if he's so honest, why hasn't he come out and said, look, I was briefed in 1971 that I'm going to be a future president like our colleague Andrew Basiago has.
Right, remember?
And because Andy did it, the dark powers, the reptilian powers blinded him. You follow me? So I'm still...
Well, this is where we go way back because, yeah.
Yeah, so I see Donald Trump is not of the Draco. Donald Trump does not have a Draco reptilian soul, which George Bush Sr. had, which George W. Bush has, which Bill Clinton has, which Barry Soetoro, Barack Obama has, a Draco reptilian soul. However,
I'm just listening, but it doesn't mean I necessarily agree. But I
know, and these are so I'm and if you look at photographs of Jimmy Carter with the kind of Project Pegasus, he's off to the side. I think Jimmy Carter has a human soul, and you know, and he's a different sort of entity.
Right. And Eisenhower kind of like gave me that feeling. That's kind of why I chose his family. I'm like, no. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah. And so I think that Donald Trump is a special figure, and I think that for his own survival, he's thinking that he has to be such a broken field runner. But
wow,
for my purposes,
great assessment.
For my purposes, since I know so much about him, I would say, Donald, be straight for once in a while. Come out straight and say, yeah, they told me that I was going to be president, and they told me this, and they told me that. You know,
well, they could maybe get in touch with somebody like you, and acknowledge that, maybe not publicly, but at least reach out to those behind the scenes that get it. That would be nice. I mean, I know that's a tough one, and we're in a time of disclosure. In order to win these galactic wars, we have to put all hands out on the table, right? It would only benefit, I think, him at the end.
But it's like you and I once did a program in which we said that it was called Abrogate This. If you're going to abrogate the global warming treaty, abrogate the secret treaties with the Dracos. And you indicated as the great-granddaughter of President Dwight Eisenhower, a signatory to the Greada Treaty, that you would be willing to walk into the Oval Office with a petition that we had placed online, which is still online, which has all those signatures, and ask Donald Trump with his signature, with his power, to abrogate all of those secret treaties.
Definitely. And I would want to take the right approach. And and I would, and I support what you do and what you're saying, but, and it's not that I want to play dumb either, but I have to, you know, there's some of us have that role of kind of being the bridge. Like we have one arm here and we have one arm there. And like, how can we, in order to help the duality factor and how much it split and divides so many people, because ultimately this sort of thing is going to bring about something huge. I don't think he's not wanting that, but I want to approach it in a respectful way, and to have it, like him see me as person worthy of his respect as well, on, you know, on the terms that he
my first interaction with him was a wonderful conversation, you know, at the top level, where we talked about all of this stuff. But then it's, look, at a certain level, you have now that I'm a war crimes judge, and you have the Trump administration taking out sanctions against the International Criminal Court. And at the same time, I'm approached by organizations all over the world that are against 5G, the deployment of 5G, which is intimately connected with the pandemic. In fact, they say
it's the most critical thing, and this is why this is such an important interview, and why some huge breakthroughs are going to come from this.
Great.
And I'm glad we're doing this at the timing that we are. So keep going about the 5G.
Yeah, and so, like, just today, I signed off on a document that's going to go out to all journalists worldwide, where they understand that misinformation and disinformation that they're putting out about 5G is actionable under Articles 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the International Criminal Code, and can be prosecuted as such in the national courts of the 118 nation states that have ratified the Rome Treaty. And so this puts me at odds which the Trump administration, which has just issued, unprecedentedly, has just issued sanctions against the International Criminal Code. So that, and it's because I'm a war crimes judge. Now, so I've been
you wear many hats, and it's incredible. So keep going,
Yeah. So I understand where he's coming from, because like him, I met with the secret time travel, DARPA CIA time travel, and was pre-identified.
Right, we were both pre-identified. Sorry,
yeah. And it's like, I want to say to him, hey, go public about being pre-identified, because it makes your life that much easier.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to this. So
I mean, the fact that your book time traveled and that you keep putting out books, none of your books are like anything people can imagine. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, you know.
But get back, to your.
Yeah, because that is the way to transmit tangible, evidentiary knowledge, and by knowledge, we have replicable, we have standard protocols, replicable results coming out with information, with knowledge, and we're transmitting that. And we're building into a new cosmological entity, which is the Omniverse, and that's emerging in 2020. Isn't that amazing that you would say that, oh, what is 2020 identified with? Oh, the plandemic, the scandemic. No, it's identified with the emergence of the Omniverse which is Ascension. That's the cosmic paradox, isn't it? It's amazing.
Right, right. So is that just the ultimate catalyst, and it's just up to the individual to get it, get the joke, and even if it's a bad joke?
I think so. It may not be a joke. It may be an
I mean, the paradox part of it, where these narratives are the catalyst to embrace what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if we look at the PMIR model, for example, that's the psi-mediated instrumental response model, which is actually published in the journals, in parapsychological journals of human interaction on Earth, that holds that all conscious action on Earth is modulated and coordinated by subconsciously derived psychic, in other words, telepathically derived, non-local information. And that holds that we, the human community, are actually in touch on a subconscious level all the time, and it's very complex. When you and a friend meet on a street corner, or online synchronistically, and you exchange valuable information, that's part of the PMIR model. That's why the world works so well.
And that's getting weaponized, right? Is that kind of what you've been, like the AI part of it?
Right. And that's, so this is the crucial time where it's our souls that are moving in to, and the omniverse emerging.
Yes.
Yes. And AI has to flip to be beneficial rather than predatory.
Right, and the predatorial part seems to prey on wounds and unresolved issues and trigger words, and instead of better, higher languaging, which you're actually bringing, and this is why this is so timely. So if you disagree, of course, I don't think you do. I'm just saying that's what I'm getting. You agree? Like the trigger.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No,
right? Like how does a virus get created? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you're articulating it very well. So now, from a scientific perspective, there are various ways to validate the reality of the continuation of consciousness after bodily death. So part of the emergence of the omniverse is to become more comfortable with the concept of the afterlife, interlife matrix, and to shift away from sort of the forced reincarnation into conscious, voluntary reincarnation. And this is sort of a very tricky point here.
Very important one.
Yeah. We have verifiable apparitions of dead persons. And if you go through the book here, this is the sort of the soft cover version of it. And I also have, there are two earlier books. These are the two earlier books on the omniverse. They're sort of an omniverse trilogy. We have
that's so major what you've given the human. Wow, thanks. Keep going.
Yeah, we have verifiable apparitions of dead persons, communications with quote dead persons. These are people who are in another dimension, which we'll call the interlife or the afterlife, via mediums, communications with quote dead persons via technology, computers, video, cell phones. I think that you had indicated to me once that you may have had a communication with a person in the interlife via a cell phone. You know, I don't know whether.
Oh gosh, well, only yeah, yeah, something weird like that happened. It would be too much to try and fully remember, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then there's instrumental trans communication. I mean, there are actually websites where you can go and you can have like a chat with a person in the interlife. There are studies of reincarnated consciousness, there are near-death experiences, there are hypnotic regression to soul memories of the interlife and prior lives. Now, there's a body of knowledge also. Dr. Michael Newton has over 7,000 cases of hypnotic regression of soul memories of the interlife, going down into the process of the creation of souls, which is, if you conceive of source as kind of a sea of light, our souls are like an egg of light. In other words, it's you're a holographic fragment. When one dies or passes from the body in a normal death, you're sort of passing, you're floating over the body and then teleport up to the entry portal into the spiritual dimensions. Now, this is kind of the tricky point, because they talk about a tunnel and light, and we'll come to that in a couple of slides. In a typical death, you'll meet a soul's family members. If you have a disoriented soul who died either a violent death because they were an accident, or they were murdered, or they were in a war, violent death, there's persons on the other side that meet them. There's life review and
Yes.
healing. There's a transition place, a rehearsal. Our guides are complex entities, and there's sort of the Michael Newton studies give kind of a very rational view, you know, and there's a lot of different views that you get depending on the particular case studies. And we give a sample of these. Now, Wes Penray is someone.
Gosh, yes, he's one of my favorite. I know you mentioned him before, and he's one of both of our. Yes, keep going. Yes, I appreciate his research so much.
Yeah,
I love how you tied it in though with yours. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and he brings an alternative and unusual point of view, and in quote, the death trap and how to avoid it. He writes, the death trap, what usually happens when we die is that spirit guides on this planet, who are more often than not alien invasion force. See, he's taking the view that Earth is still in the grip of sort of a matrix of whether it's Draco or an alien invasion force. And
yes,
and that alien invasion force controls not only our living, incarnating reality, such that most of the authority figures that we encounter in government, politics, etc., are reptilians or are alien invasion forces. But in the afterlife, he's saying that the spirit guides are in fact alien invasion forces in disguise. and they escort us to where in the astral we're supposed to go. Where we end up depends on our belief. If we believe in Jesus in heaven, we are most likely to be transported into such a frequency band dimension in the astral plane. We will mingle with like-minded, and there might even be a God there, and Jesus might sit by his side. It's all virtual realities within virtual realities, and we help creating these realities with our belief, which form the energy we transmit and receive. Therefore, someone who believes in Krishna will end up in a dimension within the hologram containing a Hindu belief. This is Wes Penry
Can I
writing
jump on that?
in The Death Trap and How to Avoid It.
Yes. Do you mind if I share a thought on that?
Yeah, please.
Well, a part of me is just like, you know, if you have a oar in your hand and you begin to bang on the water, it creates a ripple. And so the ripple will attract the force and intention behind what you put into it. And water's a frequency carrier, right? But it's not the only elemental. When it comes to the spiritual, it seems like there's the being inspired by something to the point where you begin to emulate it. And that would be like DNA upgrade. If you look to the Christ energy or to Buddha, can that actually create a DNA upgrade, or are you just going to worship it? And it depends where you are and who you are, though, right? So, and that's what I love about what you're sharing, is because there's the action, there's the belief, and then there's the embodiment, and you're tying it all together, like it seems really in this last one.
Thank you. So here
the virtual reality part is where the computer can get in there, though. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, here is Wes Penry continuing. Quote, the afterlife also often begins with a, quote, tunnel of light through which the disincarnate soul, mind, light body travels to her destination. At the end of the tunnel, an appropriate being greets the soul. This being could be Jesus or Krishna or simply a loved one who has passed away earlier. These beings, persons, are often just projections created by the alien invasion force, you know, whatever's occupying Earth, to pull the soul into a certain container or astral dimension, according to Wes Penry. The alien invasion force, this is continuing, knows whom to project.
Well, that might be a lot to read, but yes, give us the brief summary.
Yeah, the alien invasion force. This is kind of the AI reality. See, this is where the choice point comes. This is building up to something. The alien invasion force knows whom to project because they have the technology to scan the soul before or at the death moment for memories and experiences. These memories and experiences are then used to give the soul a, quote, life review, where she will re-experience the most recent lifetime in a matter of seconds or minutes measured in Earth time. The soul is then encouraged to examine this life experience and compare the good and not so good things she did during the previous lifetime. Subsequently, she discusses with her spirit guide what she needs to improve, and the soul will then feel a certain amount of guilt for the, quote, the bad things she did to herself or others, or what she neglected to do for other people while she was incarnated. The spirit guide then suggests that the soul return to Earth to remedy these, quote, flaws. In order to create balance, the spirit guide will tell the soul that in the next incarnation, it is a good idea to experience, quote, the other side of the coin. I.e., if the soul was abusive to others in the previous life, it's a good idea to become the abused in the next lifetime to experience the matter from the other person's perspective. This is where the idea of karma comes into play. It is a term and a phenomenon invented by the alien invasion force with the purpose of having the soul reincarnate willingly under a strict set of rules. So what it's saying is that Earth, not only at 3D, but in the kind of Saturn, Moon, Earth matrix, which is where there's a reincarnation cycle, is occupied. And they have a set of souls there that they're recycling continually, like under a soul mind
Where
control.
does the soul find sovereignty? Where, and that's what it seems like this is where this is going, because there is an alien invasion force who is dictating something to draw the soul back in, right?
Right.
And the difference between that and like karma on an alien level is just, we'll keep going because that's
yeah.
and
So this all comes down to discernment, that is staying in touch with your own soul and your own sovereignty.
I was hoping you would say that exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's yes.
So, and then I'm just continuing
just
with
inner work and alchemy through the transformative process of keep going. Yes.
Yeah. So this is continuing with Wes Penray, and the image here is from one of those interdimensional chats with a soul. That image is a soul in the interlife on one of those chats. Quote, "It should be mentioned that in some instances, a discarnate soul is recycled immediately after the recent body has expired. This soul goes through a tunnel as well, but in these cases, the tunnel leads back to Earth again, and this soul is shot into a new body. She has no choice in the matter." So he's describing a condition that he posits exists now in the Saturn, Moon, I'm just positing that that's where it may exist, in the Saturn, Moon, Earth kind of soul reincarnation prison, where these souls are being recycled under mind control or soul control conditions. And we have to become conscious of that so we aren't sucked into that. Okay, so these are conditions that have existed for the last 450,000 to 250,000 years of the Lucifer rebellion, because we had a rebellion in the Omniverse of high spiritual beings who rebelled against and set themselves up as gods. And that's the alien invasion force led by Lucifer.
Is that kind of inevitable with the free will universe, or is this a big anomaly, or what do you think?
This is what I believe occurred, and what has been the case here on Earth since the Lucifer rebellion. And that's why we had Christ come back the last 2,000 years to draw the line in the sand.
Is that because of a free will universe experience, these kind of things are inevitable, or?
Well, this is what happened in this quadrant of the universe, of this.
Right.
Universe.
This is how the soul matrix and the greater, yeah. I mean, it's its own unique organism in and of itself, in a way, right? We're all parts of.
We are dealing with a troubled planet, solar system, and quadrant here. And its conditions is that for the last 450 to 250,000 years, it's been under the condition of the Lucifer rebellion. It's had a Saturn Moon matrix. It's been under the AI singularity. It's had an AI afterlife, interlife reincarnation matrix. And it's had the Draco reptilian, Orion Gray, Anunnaki reptilian secret treaty matrix, Greada treaty. So it's like
Yeah, it's
this is
hijacking
like,
the free will. It's like literally becoming
yeah,
like a bully and a gangsta.
yeah, but we are the liberation troops. We're like
Absolutely.
D-Day to take the Eisenhower example. We are the liberation troops. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, he warned us, and troops
we have incarnated into a planet where the conditions are Lucifer rebellion, Saturn soon matrix, AI singularity, afterlife, interlife, reincarnation matrix, and Draco reptilian treaty matrix, right? And we say, let me at him, boom! And we've incarnated there, right? And we're saying, it's over. It's over. It's 2020 and it's over, and we're on the positive timeline. And that's what we're doing.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So now, just to follow through Wes Penray's 3 options. See, in this book, I go along, but I distinguish Wes Penray's options, and I say, no, the Earth is our prize. We're not going to abandon the battlefield. So Wes Penray says, look, humanity has 3 options. Option 1 is those of humanity that are asleep or they have weak souls, they can merge with the AR singularity and become part of the transhuman agenda and merge with the AI. That's option 1, okay?
Yeah, this is really important. The most important part right here. This is what comes down to.
Yeah,
okay? Option 2.
yeah. He says, well, that's, that's what some people are going to do, and we're trying to warn them against it. And then there's option 2. You can say, well, I'm going to keep on reincarnating, and I'm just going to keep on reincarnating and keep on trying to wake people up. And then Wes Penray says, you know something? I think that we have to abandon the battlefield, abandon Earth, because things have just gotten too bad here. And we have to escape the grid. What's happened is that the grid over Earth has now fallen into pieces. And we have to take advantage of this and escape the grid out into the omniverse and escape away from Earth, okay? And so we have to take option 3. And that's what Wes Penray announces. And that's what his school is about, option 3. After this, we are all abandoning battlefield Earth. We're in option 3, or that's what he says in his, in his most recent things. Now, I say, no, Earth is on a positive timeline.
Right, I was just gonna say, where do we get the creative input? There you go.
Yeah, I say that the real option is that Earth is on a positive timeline. It may look, like 2020 is plandemic, but the plandemic is their demise. It's their projection. It's not ours.
Right. Yeah.
So now,
well, it is. It keeps shooting them in the foot. I mean, ultimately, it's creating nothing but backlash. I mean, 9/11 shot them in the foot. They keep assuming we're stupid is the problem.
Right. Exactly. So now what I'd like to do is just to go through some things that relate to the positive timeline. And this is a prophecy which came true, which relates to the positive timeline. And it was a prophecy, a 50-year prophecy from July 20th, 1969 to July 20th, 2019. And it was of the Brazilian, it was the final prophecy of the Brazilian medium Chico Javier. That's a picture of him, who in his 92-year lifetime made multiple prophecies, sold 40 million books, donated all of the profits, to, because he said that, other sources had written his books. And he left a major prophecy that universal powers gave 50 years of grace to Earth starting July 20th, 1969. And if a third world war had not started by July 20th, 2019, there would be major UFO sightings, no World War III will occur, and Earth will join a peaceful galactic society of worlds, okay? So July 20th, 1969 is the date that the US reportedly landed on the moon, okay? Whether or not you believe that they did, that's that date. And the prophecy is that on July 20th, 2019, if there would be major, if a third world war had not started by then, there would be major UFO sightings and Earth would join a peaceful galactic society of worlds, okay? So that's a positive timeline versus the dystopian timeline that is being peddled now, even by the alternative media. Like today, like yesterday, that the headline in Natural News, which is an alternative publication, is that Communist China is planning an EMP event over the US, which is where they explode nuclear weapons high in the atmosphere over the US, which would kill 90% of the population of the US, okay? Hello?
Dang, right? Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
we might have to break this into two parts because I know I don't know how much longer, but.
Oh, I see. You.
Well, I don't want it to end. I mean, the thing is, I need to probably run and grab my charger, but I can listen to you all night. So.
Oh, okay.
But we might have to break it up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we could stop here and we could come back some other day. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's close on a, I don't know, like put it in a context that brings it back to, oh gosh, some of the major points about this particular weekend and the timing of everything. Wow, you still have quite a bit. It's amazing. Wow.
And so yeah. So look, I'll just stop here, which is that the time science shows that the positive future equation is a positive future equals a positive timeline plus unity consciousness. And the positive timeline is Earth will be a utopia and not a dystopia. And the good news is that our universe singularity is now emanating utopia consciousness waves on its alternating energy carrier waves. And the more we humans are individually and collectively tuned into the universal energy wave of enlightened universal consciousness and committed to achieving unity, non-dualistic consciousness, then the stronger the positive timeline becomes, and the more rapidly we achieve our potential as a planet, a potential to reach advanced utopian status. So we create a utopia on Earth as a function of the interaction of the positive timeline and our unity consciousness.
It's like,
that's what this means. So we can pause the program here and we can come back at a future date.
But let me ask you one question, because what I'm getting, yes, please, can we do another, that this is already wired into us. Do you feel like this is organically unfolding?
Oh yeah, yeah. We are on a positive future, and that is what is occurring, and everything that looks like it's not a positive future is just noise that is attempting to survive in the face of an unfolding positive timeline, and that can't relate to unity consciousness.
And that brings us back around to where we were starting, which is one of the most important things that we can all remember as far as our own personal consciousness, the frequency of our personal truth and authenticity, our soul matrix, our soul nature absolutely holds the upper hand in these times.
Indeed.
And this is what Alfred is reminding us of and helping us to see that on a world stage, multidimensional level, that all that's unfolding is threatening our ability to remember these beautiful, beautiful truths that he is reminding us of. So, Alfred, I can't wait for more. Brilliant, as always.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And Alfred, I know I just kind of wrapped that up. I'm going to put all your links, but kind of take us into, you know, where to find you.
Oh, sure.
Where to find your book and the name of your book.
Oh, yeah. The easiest place is go to universebooks.com, and you can also find them at exopolitics.com. It's very easy.
I mean, I just could talk to you forever. I mean, as we enter this weekend, though, what can we focus on? I mean, no matter what's coming through the news, we have to kind of not stay, right?
Yeah, sure. Just stay, you know, as you said, this weekend and this eclipse is going to be with, the power of this eclipse is going to be with us for the next 6 months. So I would stay, and this sharing that we have done has been dedicated to this power. So I would stay with your soul and with that openness for the next 6 months, and just stay with this positivity for the next 6 months, and focus on this, and you know, focus on the positivity, get into the omniverse, anchor in the omniverse. It's the omniverse that is emerging. Start learning about the omniverse. That is the infrastructure of the new Earth.
And this is key to us upgrading our DNA and coming together and exploring the galactic heritage that we're all a part of.
Yes.
Thank you for taking your human experience and expanding it beyond the borders. Thank you for being a multidimensional being that blasts out the things that keep us stuck and blocked. Alfred, you rock. I had so much fun, as always.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everybody, and tune in next time. We're going to do a part 2. He's got more to this PowerPoint. Very important information. What I love about these PowerPoints is you can press pause and, you know, read through. Sorry to have to rush through at the end, but man, this was major. Okay, good night, everybody.